Okay, so I wanted to do an update on basically my Invisalign treatment. I originally started Invisalign back in February, and then I actually did not do so well in the beginning. I was pretty lax about it, and it was mostly because in the beginning, if you guys saw my previous video, which I will link somewhere, if not reposted on this channel, but basically in the first few days, it was really painful for me, which is normal, which is fine. The pain was fine, but the inconvenience of having Invisalign in terms of eating and stuff like that. I was so used to eating like 6 meals a day, 7 meals a day, snacking here or there, eating big meals when I wanted to and stuff like that. So what ended up happening was because I was just not used to it, I just ended up falling off the cycle of really just taking care of the Invisalign trays after I eat, before I eat, and then making sure that I put them back on, because then I would leave them off for too long. So I was basically on and off with putting those trays on. So what ended up happening was, actually I basically went back to visit the dentist, and the dentist said, you know, you have such a large gap of space in between the Invisalign on the bottom here, and then also your tooth. So he realized, like, when he said, okay, take off your top tray. So I took off my top tray and I showed it to him, and he could tell, literally, you cannot get away with this, he could tell that I literally put it on that morning. So in terms of like that tray, so yeah, he knew. There was no hiding it. I was pretty amazed, because I'm like, how can you even tell? But for some reason he could tell, and he said, okay, so since there's such a large gap between the Invisalign and your tooth, and it's not fitting in right, which will eventually end up happening with I guess a lot of people too, because it won't always be perfect, and of course just the fit of it is trying to make your teeth move. So of course there's going to be space in between the Invisalign and then also your real teeth too. So some kind of like a little bit, I don't know if you guys can see it, I do have a little bit of a gap in between the two. And so what he recommended is, actually he has these I want to call them like fluoride plastic sticks, because they're actually coated in fluoride, and it's really useful, because I have to say, it's pretty fun. I'm gonna show on and show you what he did. So you basically biting onto this, it makes your Invisalign tray push upward into your tooth, into your like teeth line. But so that's what it's supposed to be intended for people who have gaps and stuff like that. You can even do this with like a pencil and stuff like that, but just because this is plastic, it's made for plastic, it's specifically made for this purpose, for people who need to do this. And the best part about this is, I actually don't mind doing this in like public, and sometimes I do this in the car as well when I have a chance. That's what he basically said. He said, try doing this as often as possible, because you want this to fit as neatly as possible onto your teeth. This is gonna decrease discomfort, and it's also going to help you with your next tray as well to fit better. So everything, he was absolutely right for scolding me. He was absolutely right with everything that he said. I really need to really get on this. My biggest issue with the trays were that basically my workplace, I only get half an hour to eat lunch, to eat dinner, whatever it is. And for me, the biggest thing was really just taking off my Invisalign, and then I have such sensitivity when I take off the Invisalign, so I literally need to wait maybe 10-15 minutes to after I take off my Invisalign to really start eating anything at all. So for me, that's already half an hour already. And then afterwards, I have to wait. After I eat, I also have to wait 10 or 15 minutes and then put on the Invisalign, because it's too sensitive, and I also have to brush it. So I mean, it's just I feel like maintenance wise it's very time consuming, and I don't really have that time. But the dentist is right, I really do. I paid for this treatment, it's not cheap, and I need to really just get on it. So he basically gave me this. I find this really helpful. It does do what it's supposed to do, and it really does help me. And I love chewing on this, because for some reason it's like coated with like infinite amount of fluoride. It's not like I'm putting like my saliva all over it, but I'm just literally just like chewing it, and I could just feel the fluoride, like smell, scent, taste, like in my mouth after. So it's pretty useful. I love this. Other than that, I have to say one other thing in the e-visit. Sorry, I have a like lisp now after I have a lisp now after I have Invisalign in. But one other thing I have to mention that do not get care credit. It's good for installments, but like let's say your doctor's office offers installments, your dentist's office offers installments regardless of this like credit card thing. Do that instead, because what I made the mistake of doing was actually opening up this credit card, which is really like basically useless. I'm not sure if it's opened up everywhere, but in Philadelphia they basically have it, at least in this office, and I think they have it elsewhere as well. But I know specifically for this, it's called Care Credit. It's specifically for your Invisalign, and it's basically like a useless credit card after you pay it off. And not only that, it puts an inquiry on your credit. So you have to think about these things when you open up a credit card, and which I didn't really even think about, because it was basically, okay, how am I going to pay for this? Okay, $199 a month sounds good, and it's going to be for a year on this credit card. But I've had issues with this because, first off, the app for Care Credit does not work a lot. And so what ended up happening was, okay, I kind of misunderstood the type of like terms and agreements of, they said, okay, well, you can pay anything. They weren't clear as well. The office wasn't clear as well, but I should have thought of it myself, because yeah, this is a credit card, you have to pay this monthly, blah blah blah, all this other stuff. But I actually thought for some reason that you could pay off any amount like during the month, and you could skip a month and everything would be okay. You can still like pay whatever, as long as you pay it off within the year. So that's basically how they promoted it. They said, okay, you don't have to pay for any, you don't have to pay everything right away. You can pay these in installments. You can pay however you want. You can pay $500, $300, $200, whatever you want, and in a year's time you'll be able to pay it off, depending on how much your payment, of course, how much your Invisalign is. My Invisalign was pretty expensive, and I actually realized that I mentioned in my previous video, but I'll mention it again, where you really have to be careful, because the dentist will tell you one price. They'll tell you, okay, maybe the Invisalign is $5,000. They'll tell you, okay, $5,000, and then they're like, okay, so, but, they won't tell you the but. Because like, let's say you don't have dental insurance, and let's just $5,000 through cash. So they're like, okay, well, we're actually offering this discount for $1,000 off, so it's actually $4,000. So you think this is such a great deal, but then you're like, and then he's like, oh, you know what? We offer care credit as well. So what we can do is we can charge that amount onto care credit, and then you can pay for this in a year's time. I think they do it for a year's time for everyone, but a year's time, and then you can pay in installments of, for me, it was $199 a month, and everything would be great, and whatever. But what they don't tell you is actually, okay, he said originally $4,000, but $4,000 is not the amount that we are going to use for care credit, because let's say, like in my case, in my scenario, I actually had my dental insurance back on, because I wanted to see if I could get, that deductible, not deductible amount, but so that I could get that $1,500 maximum payout with my dental insurance. And so I ended up, restarting my dental insurance with my workplace. And what they don't tell you is, what the dental office doesn't tell you, they're like, oh, okay, so you're using your insurance now, okay, so we're actually going to charge you a base price higher than what we said. So they're like, oh, okay, so that $4,000, it's actually not even $4,000 anymore, because you're using your insurance, we're going to charge you $4,800. So that's where they caught me off guard, where they didn't tell me, okay, like, if you use your insurance, we're going to charge you a different price than what we said. So that's the biggest, like, oh my god, like frustrating part of me like talking to the office and things like that, because they did not explain that clearly. I just thought, okay, 4,000 and then my dental insurance minus 1,500. Okay, but they did. I think it's all dental offices. In reality, like if I were to go back, I would choose. You know, originally I went to this office. Okay, very very expensive. I could probably even find one for 3,500 in terms of Invisalign, because this Invisalign, you know, it's outsourced to that company specifically. So it's not as if you're not gonna, it's not as if you're gonna get different treatment elsewhere. All the, you know, if you're getting Invisalign, it's all one, the same treatment, like everywhere. You're getting these trays, you know, you put them on, make sure you put them on all the time. Okay, if I had to start over, I would really just hunt for the cheapest Invisalign dental air, like spot, office, whatever it is, because that's what I realized. You know, these dental offices, I feel like, is everywhere. You know, they don't communicate well with you, because yes, they are a money making, you know, office, specifically if they, you know, offer braces, you know, things like that. So my best thing is really just to, in the beginning, hunt for your Invisalign offices that you want to try and go to. Always try and use those free evaluations in the very beginning, and and make sure that you clarify on price. And make sure, if you're going to use insurance, make sure that, you know, they give you the correct price, because I basically argue with my my dental office, and they actually ended up charging me, you know, more than originally, so 4,800 instead of like 4 grand. And on top of that, they're like, oh, okay, and also we didn't add on the retainers at the end of your treatment, so how about we tack on another, you know, $600. So that's what they ended up doing. So it's not clear, you know, you already signed all the paperwork, you already started your treatment, and then they tell you these things, you know. So it's not as if you can really just like back out now, or back out of that office now. So really, that is my biggest advice for that. In terms of how well I'm doing with these trays, back on, like, you know, status wise, like how well am I doing with these trays? I am doing fairly well with these. I am getting more and more comfortable with wearing them every single day. I actually feel like I am probably going to start getting really uncomfortable if I don't have them on, which is great. That means I am going to get more consistent in putting them in more often. There are days where I leave them out for a couple hours at a time, and those are the days where maybe I forget to bring my toothbrush with me or things like that, and I'm not going to put a dirty, you know, I'm not gonna put like a dirty tray that I've been wearing all day or all night back in without brushing it first. So I mentioned that before in my previous video, that yes, you do need to brush these trays. It's gonna help you in the long run. My first tray, I remember I'm thinking, like, you know, what is going on with this tray, on these trays, because I had no idea you kind of not had, you don't even, you know, I wouldn't say that you have to brush them, but it is very very recommended to. And not only that, my dental office did not tell me crap about that. Dental office did not tell me any type of maintenance or things like that. Oh yeah, you're gonna need to brush these trays, make sure you do this, because you will have really bad breath. And also they don't mention, oh yeah, you have also like kind of like plaque. I'm not sure if it's really called plaque or not, but there's plaque like building up inside the tray, and you will see that, and that's basically like your general like plaque, just basic plaque that everyone gets throughout the day. So, you know, yeah, it's, brush them. It really helps you. You feel so much better after. My very first tray, I did not brush them like for a couple days, and I've really noticed, like, you know, even before I read any of the packets or anything like that, yeah, it's like not even intentionally like starting to smell, but it was starting to smell because of where it was, just general, you know, on your teeth and stuff. So brush them. You can use toothpaste. I use toothpaste. And you can brush it. I wouldn't put it in like scorching hot water, but like warm water to cold water, and then brush it really really thoroughly, because you want to get all the little crevices of your tooth shape tray. You want to make sure you get all the spots. Eventually, if you're wearing the tray for too long, you won't be able to scrub all of it, the plaque off, because it's kind of somewhat like indented in there. And for example, like my tray right now, the dental office